Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Just two guys.
Hey, sounds morning, brother.
Sounds like a quiet two guys on a path to recovery. It sounds like
sterile.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah, like two guys. Hey,
but we're like a lot messier than what that really looks like, right?
No, totally, man. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Early Saturday morning. I don't know who set these sessions up, but
that'd be you.
Man, we always laugh. We always say we should have a hot mic in the parking lot, right? Because that's really, I mean, we have a really cool.
Yeah, but that's like rated a whole nother level. You know what I mean? Like this is G, except for sometimes you go to R.
We could always do is charge people for that.
Oh yeah, a premium
behind the scenes. Yeah,
because this is all about the money.
That is top shelf sobriety shit that goes on the parking lot. Like we save the mild stuff for in here, but the real recovery talks happen in the parking lot.
We edit all the good stuff out. Actually,
I know, totally. Yeah. So what's been going on? You been good?
No, I got a double tooth infection. I know, right? So the guy goes, all right,
well, take two Vicodin or four?
Yeah, well, no, that's a funny story, though, because they offered it up, and I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah. I said, I'm managing with ibuprofen, and that's my drug of choice these days. So, you know what? Antibiotics work. You just got to be patient with them. I mean,
everything works with time.
Yes. But before, that
was
like a free ticket for me. I'm like, yeah, giddy up, bring them on.
Oh, man, I did my old, hey, the 10 milligrams don't work, give me the 20s.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever they were, and, that was then.
Yeah.
But, hey, I made it. I only took a couple pills with my shoulder surgery.
That's awesome.
I took 3 days, but I took this new drug called Jernavix.
Mm-hmm.
That's a non-opioid.
Okay.
And it's not as fun to take.
Right.
But it's effective.
Let me ask you a question. Did you crash your car?
But it worked. No.
All right,
I didn't crash my car.
Giddy up. That's a victory in my book.
I didn't snort them either. I actually took them orally.
No, that's funny right there.
It's crazy stuff. So
what's going
on today,
man?
Hey,
you know what?
I have a blank page in front of me.
I know. I got nothing. So here's the thing. We hauled a couple of buddies into the coffee shop this week, and I'm super excited. And
excited.
Super excited. And we actually carved out some time. So if people are listening and they're just like, I'm not getting enough, I mean, we've carved out a month.
Let's make a series out of it.
Yeah, the summer series, summer of 25.
Summer series. All right, so let's
all right, go ahead.
Two guys in the room. First of all, Joe is back. Big Joe.
Oh, boy, he's back.
Big Joe's back.
Big Joe. We talked.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Big Joe is back. There were two people, I think they're from Bangladesh, so they really enjoyed Joe. And so Joe's back, but his cohort Ryan.
Oh boy, now we're in trouble.
So I'll let Ryan introduce himself, and I'll let you introduce. But Ryan and Joe are so impactful to me. They're ahead of me on my path, and I just worship them. And pretty soon you'll question why, right?
Right. Worship's a big word, ain't it? Hey, Ryan. Good morning.
Scary.
Morning, guys.
Yeah, good to see you. So I got a little shout out to Ryan. So Ryan's
a little one?
Yeah, he's got a couple
more.
One. He's got a couple more days than I do, and I hope I never catch up. But I came into the rooms and Joe was chairing Sunday morning meeting.
Big Joe
chairing the Sunday morning meeting,
and he came back.
And I know, right? Well,
that was the only time that year he did it. But
Joe begged me, please come back next week. I'm losing people here. But anyway, and then fast forward to a couple years later, and we opened up the club opened up in Mokina on Route 6 or whatever it is over there. And so Ryan comes in, and the funny thing is, I'm a creature of habit. I usually sit in or around my
that was back
chair.
when you had your notebook.
Oh yeah, I kept notes. I know. And then Ryan again, I noticed was a creature of habit because he always kind of sat in or around his same spot. And I always look forward to when the conversation got over to Ryan's side because I knew there was going to be a little zing of wit, right? But then he turns serious on his game and talks about sobriety. So it was like it's a perfect combination. It's what I go to the meetings for: a little entertainment, a little education. So thank you, Ryan.
No problem. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll pay you later.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
So Brian's got lights and stuff going on in
And
here.
we have full blown production going on.
Yeah,
this
we
morning.
do.
Right.
We do.
Excellent.
All right, Ryan. So typically when we have a new guest, we have come in. First of all, welcome. It's great to have you here. We typically do experience, strength, and hope. Right? What happened? We always like to hear about the car crash.
Right.
Well, not
Literally or figuratively.
Yeah, right. Or the life crash, maybe.
Right.
And then what happened? What brought what brought you in the room? What did it feel
What'd you
like
do
when you
about
start?
it? Right.
What kind of how'd you get started? And then how are things today? Right.
Yeah.
In fact, we heard a really cool event that happened 11 years ago today. So but welcome, man. We'd love to hear it. And I'm sure Mike will jump in with 20 follow-up questions, and Mikey's got his timer going, which we never pay attention
Glenn
to.
loves
anyhow.
the timer.
Yeah.
I know we never pay attention to it.
I know we don't.
You did with me.
Yeah,
You
we
cut
did.
me off. It
Hey,
it
and
seemed
by
like
the way,
10
guys,
minutes.
Just
That's
like on
bullshit.
Sundays.
I got muffins.
That's
we
bullshit.
should
It
have
was
had
20
popcorn.
minutes for you, and you went 50 minutes. I'm like, man.
All right. Go ahead, Ryan. Give us
All right.
give us a little background.
Sure. Yeah. Morning, guys. Thanks
Morning.
for having me.
Morning, Ryan.
Totally, man.
As we talked about in the parking lot,
Mike.
11 years ago, probably maybe like 6 or 7 o'clock.
To the minute.
Yeah, to the minute. Like right now, I was actually getting out of the Mokina jail after a couple hours in there, after a DUI, unfortunately. So yeah, and I was telling Joe, I checked the dates, and it was 11 years to the day. So like yesterday, 11 years ago was the 15th, 16th, 17th. So things weren't going well. It wasn't just like all of a sudden, I got a DUI, right?
Right.
And that happens to people, right? They don't drink very often, and
Progression, right?
then then they get a DUI. I drank often, and I deserved the DUI. And in fact, I'm surprised I made it that far actually. So I was 30 years old. And I, at the time, as I said, things weren't going well. It was kind of like the DUI was a cherry on top of a very bad couple of months.
Were you a day drinker or binge drinker?
Both.
Okay.
But,
Wow. Hey. Way to
yes,
go.
yes.
Yes, and yes.
You know what? No, the binge drinker mostly.
Yeah, okay.
I would go after work, and then I would, drink just until I black out, right? And it didn't really matter where I was or who I was with. I'd kind of change groups. I'd go out with people who were like normal. They'd go out after work for a couple beers. Then I'd find the group who was out a little later. Then I'd find the group who was out a little later than that. And it just became, just a weekend, just path of destruction is kind of how I would put it. But really, I would say some people talk about how they were the first ones to know that they were the last ones to know that they were an alcoholic, not me. I knew when I first started drinking, like, I have arrived. This is great. This is a good feeling. This is, I was a little, if you could believe it, I was a little uncomfortable. Maybe a little bit of anxiety. I'm not sure if that was it, but it's like when I was drinking, everything was equal, right? It was just great. I was the funniest guy in the world. And right now, I'm the funniest guy in the room. But then,
absolutely.
You absolutely are.
You picked your company well.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Joe's like, what the fuck?
You set the bar, right?
Right.
Joe's like, what about me?
But alcohol.
Well, the spotlight's
yeah.
on Ryan. I'm giving him
Yeah,
his props right now.
So I get those 10 seconds back from Joe, right?
That's right.
But alcohol was kind of just like it gave me a personality, right? And that compounded over years and years and years. And then the late 20s, though, is when, in my late 20s, that was when the consequences started to pile up, right? Like just drinking on days I shouldn't be drinking, going to places drunk I shouldn't be going to, driving a lot, driving all the time. I was pulled over a couple times. They let me go. So like the red flags and the warnings were there. I just didn't listen. I didn't pay attention. So anyway, I get this DUI, and it was on top of a lot of other consequences, right? Like I was living in a house that was about to be sold. It was already sold. I was about to move out in a couple weeks. Relationships ended. Jobs ended. Things like that. Just
Well, you have the trifecta of life
everything,
going on,
yeah.
right?
And it's like everything over the course of a couple months, just really, it was kind of crumbling, right? And even though all those things happened over the course of a few months, I still didn't want to give up drinking, right? Didn't want to give up my buddy. It was there for me, and I'm like, all right, I could handle it. And my way of handling it was like, all right, well, I won't drive, or I won't do shots, or I won't drink during the day, or whatever, right? All the crazy things that we convince ourselves to do, and that worked so well. I got a DUI. So I'll bring you back on the 15th, the Friday the 15th. I was working a job that my brother hooked me up with, and I knew it was just temporary, but it was good enough. My brother, did me a big favor. Yeah. And it was fine. I mean, it was a decent job. But I know it wasn't, something that I was going to stick with. So then I remember on the 15th, I'm texting people, like 10 friends, like who wants to meet like 3 or 4 p.m. right
Sure.
at this bar, and one answered, and that was all I needed, right?
There
so I
you
met
go.
that guy,
Invite.
and off to the races. That is, I drank, more than I should have. I drove, obviously, more often, but then that night I obviously drove, and I blacked out. I don't remember how I got there, but at like 4 or 5 in the morning, had to be 5:30, because it was just becoming light out. And I got a knock at the window, and I wake up and I look over, and I'm at the corner of LaGrange and LaPorte.
Okay.
So it's a busy street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not at 5 in the morning,
Right.
but it's a busy street. The knock on the window, passed out at the wheel, and I look over, it's a cop.
Oh, good morning.
So there's a squad car in front of me, a squad car behind me. I rolled the window down. They're like, "Hey, do you know where you're at?" And I'm like, "Chicago? I don't know." And just like, "Oh man." So, and I was 2 miles past my house. Like I have no reason to be where I was at, right? Like somebody else drove my car that night.
You should have tried that line. Officer, really, I don't know.
I don't know. I got-
Somebody was here.
It didn't work.
Somebody- yeah,
the
it didn't
Chicago
work.
thing didn't work either.
No.
But the crazy thing is, like, I let my foot off the brake. It wasn't even in park. I fell asleep with my foot on the brake. So I let my foot off the brake a little bit, and I hit the cruiser ahead of me.
Oh, perfect.
And I just nudged him. I mean, it was
Right,
fine.
sure.
And no one was in there. But they didn't get me for that. They knew what was going on,
Yeah.
right? They just put the car in park. They brought me back to police station, and I just remember sitting there, like, still severely hungover, out of it, all of the above, and I was handcuffed to the bench, and I just kind of had my head down, and I didn't know the cop. Like, I had not really a run-in before, and the guy I remember looking at me. He goes, "Hey man, have you had enough?" He's like, I don't really know you, but have you had enough? And I'm just like, man, fuck him. I don't,
Right.
I don't know this guy. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't need a lecture. I'm already
Sure, I'm
screwed.
not having a good day if you haven't noticed.
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. So then, but again, he was just, he was
What a
trying to help,
question.
right?
But how profound.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. So then, I go home. I got a ride home from a friend. I went home to the house that was being sold in a couple weeks. I had nowhere to live at the time, or wasn't sure where I was going to live at the time, and I just went to sleep on my couch. Like, didn't do anything. Just went to sleep on the couch. And I woke up at like 1 p.m. So it's on the 16th now. And I'm like, man, maybe I dreamed it, and I'm like, hopefully. So and actually, the funny thing is I blew off a realtor who was going to help me with a place downtown. And I got missed calls from him, missed calls from my mom, friends, wondering where I'm at, what happened. No one knows at this point, except for the one friend, and then obviously the cops. But I get up and the ticket's on my
that's
on
what reality is.
the table. I'm like, oh man, it
really
happened. So then I'm like, all right, got to make the phone calls. Call my mom, call some friends. And everybody's saying the same thing. Dude, you need help. You need help.
Did you call a lawyer?
I did call a lawyer.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, I called a lawyer a little
I mean,
later.
mom's good.
Yeah.
It's good that she's in the know, but you might need some legal advice.
What's funny is I called the lawyer, and he was less like, okay, we can get out of it, reckless driving or get it,
Right.
pleaded down or whatever. He was more on the lecture side too. Like,
Okay.
you could have killed somebody. You could have hit somebody. Are you crazy? Kind of like,
Wow.
dude, and so
and,
I was
and
getting
he's
it.
billing you for that.
Right.
Right. The guilt.
Exactly.
The guilt treatment.
And it was like all this, the same stories. And then like later on that night, I remember it's dark out and my aunt comes over and she's bringing me like Jesus calling books and shit. And I'm just like, all right, I get it. I get it. I get what's going on here. So at that point, I just decided, I wasn't forced at that point, but I decided to go to a meeting. And I only went to 2 meetings.
How'd you know about meetings?
I just Googled.
Just Googled.
Yeah. So I lived, at the time I lived in like Tinley, but closer to Orland and Mokina, like that side, that part, kind of near 80. And Mokina happened to be the closest that had the most meetings.
Okay.
So I went to like a 3:30 p.m. or whatever it was, the afternoon, not a 6.
Right.
2 o'clock back then.
Maybe it's 2 o'clock.
2
Yeah,
o'clock.
yeah, 2
Yeah.
o'clock. Right. So I
Yeah.
went to a meeting, and first meeting was fine. It was like I said that it was my first meeting, and they did that whole thing, and I wasn't really in. I'm just like, all right, I think I have a problem, but even then I wasn't sure.
Sure.
I was like, how
Right.
crazy it is. I'm like, I just got drunk that one time, right? Like I blacked out those couple times. I just won't drive, and I knew at that point I just had to stop drinking.
Right.
That's all I knew.
Yeah.
Because the consequences just became too much. Like even people who at that point weren't really talking to me or like relationships have dissolved were like, dude, you need help.
Right.
Like they didn't care. Like they're just like, you need help. So
But here's the thing. You were how old at that point?
30.
I mean, there's a whole life of drinking ahead of you, man.
Right.
You
Well,
know, that's a lot to give up.
Trust me, that's what.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
Like, I'm 30. I can't be an alcoholic.
right,
That kind of thing. Like alcoholics,
They're
alcoholics.
70.
Alcoholics look like him. Like it's,
Points to Joe.
yeah.
That's
He
funny.
pointed to Joe.
Is there somebody behind me?
That's what an
But I'm
alcoholic looks
no,
like.
every excuse you can think
right.
of. Like when you come in and I'm like, no, this isn't for me. And then the second meeting, I remember a woman mentioning, like God put you in this seat or whatever, and I was not ready to hear that.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like, you know what? I believed in God. I was raised Irish Catholic.
Right, but keep it to yourself.
Never had a problem with the church. People talk about that. I
Right.
never had a problem with the
Right.
church. My Catholic beliefs are where they're at.
Right.
Right. Still believing in God, and I just wasn't ready for
Right.
that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not.
This might not be for me.
Yeah, not for me. So I didn't come back for like 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And the only reason I came back in December, so that was August, and then December of 2014. The only reason I came back is because I had to. So at that point, the DUI was wrapped up. It was in part of
the court forced you to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the agreement was
You had excellence thrust upon you.
no, seriously. Part of the agreement was
Right.
you have to go for I think a full year.
Okay.
And then you have to go to 2 meetings, get your sheet signed. And then I had to go to a couple of those like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving
Right.
things, the
Impact-
testing,
impact
the impact.
panels.
Scared straight
Yeah.
stuff right
Yeah.
there.
And those are,
Yep.
I mean, and at the time, the good news is I was sober.
Yes.
Right. So I was able to take that in.
Yes.
Like, and the other good news is like, while my DUI was a bad one, right? Don't get me wrong. No one got hurt,
Yeah,
right?
right,
And so I was able to hear that, and it's like the Yets, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't get there, and I don't want to get there, and I didn't hurt anybody, thank God. So then I come to the rooms in December. Still,
Can I ask you,
Yeah, sure.
did you think that you're going to do this gig for a year and then you're back out on the street?
yeah, I'm gonna,
Okay.
if you let me, I'll get to that, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me jump in.
So then
You ain't
yes.
getting anywhere until I know this detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you blow?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't blow. No, and that's why. So my license got suspended for like 45 days.
So
Okay.
you told
So I
them
was
you
on a
weren't going to
permit.
blow.
I did. Yeah,
Got it.
I
All
did
right.
tell them that.
All right.
So then, at the point when I get in December, I have to get the sheet signed. I am on a device, on the breathalyzer
The Bade or
device,
whatever
the
it's
Bade
called.
device.
Yep.
Yeah, that's already in my car. Just got installed in like late November, and then I had to go to a couple of those classes. And at the time, I still like the breathalyzer. Joe and I will joke about that a little later. It sucks, man. I mean, that's horrible, especially in Chicago winters. It doesn't work half the time.
Especially
You're
going on a
expected-
date.
Yeah, you're.
Hold on, honey.
Yeah, no, and that's
Proud
embarrassing.
moment.
Like you can't,
Proud moment.
you can't take people out. You can't go. Like you can't take
Business
friends.
function.
No,
Ryan,
you can't.
Ryan, can you
yeah.
drive? Well,
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they asked me when I got a new job at that point, and they asked me like to drive a couple places at work. And I'm like, yeah, I could drive. And then someone's like, I'll ride with you. I'm like, never mind, I'm good. I can't drive.
Right, exactly.
And luckily, the company that hired me, they kind of knew what was going on, but the people didn't, and I'm not broadcasting like I got a breathalyzer, and then. Funny enough, or not funny enough, I started giving this young man a ride. He was in a similar situation, a ride to work, and he actually let it slip one time. Well, Ryan's on the breathalyzer device. And I'm like, thanks, pal. And they're like, you are? I'm like, calm down, buddy. Like,
Yeah, right.
let's relax. But so yeah, it's I get to the meetings, not full in at all. Like it took me 2 or 3 more months to even get a sponsor. The sponsor was the same as Joe's. And then little by little, I started going to more meetings. I found the 7 a.m.s on Sunday, which were a life changer. Before that, I was kind of hopping around and bouncing around. And I was, like you mentioned, I sat in the corner and I sat with my hat on, kind of hid away from people. And I was a wallflower. I would, contribute, but I wasn't all in until I found the 7 a.m.s. And then I found a sponsor. And then I found, guys like Joe. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little later, but like, the fellowship, the friendships was so important for me to that when I first started. So, little by little, I was still like not sure. I still had that date circled of that year when the breathalyzer got out of my car.
That wasn't me.
I think it was
you?
It was a timer thing.
Yeah, that was
No,
amazing.
wasn't
So
me.
Mike, you stand timer.
Brian. No, that was Brian. That was the engineer.
so,
Brian, you're still
yeah.
awake. Good.
But what I still had that date circled, right? And I just basically was like, all right, after a year, my breathalyzer gets out. I'm good, man. I'm not coming back or whatever. But over that year, things happened, right? I got friends. I started golfing a lot with Joe at the time. We'll go into Joe's story a little bit and how our friendship and, really it made a difference. My first sponsor was great. Really with like hammering in the the program, right? The steps, things like that. Very strict, but what I needed at the time. And then on August, no joke, on my 1 year anniversary, August 16th was a Sunday of 2015. I started chairing the 7 a.m. meeting. So Sammy was chairing before me.
Yeah.
He didn't plan it. He asked me if I wanted to chair, and he's like, take over on this date. I mean, I'm like, all right, dude. I didn't tell anybody that was my 1 year anniversary. Yeah. I mean, some people knew, but there's like those things just started like piling up, those little signs. And then, quite frankly, Mike, that date came and went. Didn't think of it. Just the breathalyzer got out of my car. I was ecstatic for reasons we'll talk about later. Sure. The fun that you have with the breathalyzer. It's like losing an appendage. I missed it for about 30 minutes, and then I'm like, all right, here. But I just kept coming, right? And that's just the story of why I kept coming back, is meeting people like that, and then believing like, hey, if he could do it and things are getting better in people's lives, maybe I could keep doing it. And then it just became routine. Yeah. Drinking just became part of life. Right. And life got a lot easier, a lot faster. And I just kept coming. And we'll go into like where I'm at, I guess maybe later or whatever.
No,
but
that's awesome.
How I got here and all that, the bad turned into good a little bit,
So it was 11 years this morning.
11 years.
Got out of jail.
The promises right there.
Yeah. So I've never heard that from Joe before. So I guess there's 11 years, it's big changes. Joe saying
that must mean Joe's paying attention to even know what the promises are.
Hey, I was a few months ahead of him, so I was the seasoned veteran.
Yeah, he knew. He knew the buzzwords,
the wisdom.
Yesterday,
buzzwords,
Joe,
right.
he said it on the phone yesterday. We were talking, just kind of like he was off yesterday, I was off, but we were doing separate things, and just a great day. I had, I was telling Joe what I was doing. He was like, "Man, that's the promises," and I'm like, first of all, Joe, don't ever fucking say that again. Like, you're
too cliche.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. I mean, everything people told me when I first started happened. If you just stop drinking, if you just keep coming here, if you just invest yourself a little bit into the program, what you're going to get out of it is going to be way more.
But wasn't it hard for you to get into a room and look around? And I mean, let's say what it is. It's usually older guys, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said, the guys that look like they're alcoholics, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty as charged. So, but wasn't it difficult for you, like battling kind of where you were at in your life cycle? Thinking,
it was because I found, so I was bouncing around to like later meetings, and there were younger people in there, but what I kind of found is that I wasn't like clicking really well, and that was by choice. That was not, no one did anything,
right?
And then
you got to put effort into it.
Yeah,
right?
and then I don't know what it was, man. It was just, I think it was honestly the people of the 7 a.m.s. Age didn't matter. Like at the time, like Joe was a little older than I was, but it didn't matter, right? Like Joe and I would hang out constantly, and it wasn't like Joe's like, oh, my little 30-year-old friend, and I wasn't hey,
Joe's babysitting.
Yeah, Joe's
I'm not that much older. Jesus
Joe's
Christ.
Joe's replacing
20 years.
the older
years.
Oh my God.
Joe's replacing
When
the
I didn't
older.
know I was 70.
The older brother,
the
kind of
older
thing.
brother you never had,
or never wanted,
right?
But Joe's not quite old enough. to be my
Wait. So is that why you call Joe Daddy?
I don't call him that, but that's
more along the lines of like stepbrother.
I think that's a different podcast, right?
Yeah, right.
Calling Joe Daddy. But no, I think that's what it was, Mike. It was like, but I was able to look up to people too. Like even though Joe and I were somewhat at the same time in sobriety, we had people in there who had a lot longer than us, or maybe not quite, a decent amount of time, where we were all like, even though we were different ages, we were all like same time in sobriety. Like Big Bill, for example, he's a year ahead of us, but like we all started kind of palling around together. Like me, Joe, Bill. There's some other guys like Dave, who you guys would know. He golfs a lot. He's a great guy. Glenn came in right around the same time, and then it's like. The group, you had this group of guys who were all in, and they had the same amount of sobriety. Didn't matter what our ages were.
You just said something really hit me. I mean, that's who I attracted to, the guys that were all in.
Yeah.
There are peripheral.
Man, that's really
there are
cool.
peripheral people in the room.
Right.
I just don't magnate toward them because it's the energy I need, and the energy in this coffee shop this morning. Yeah. That's what I need for my sobriety.
Yeah.
I need guys that are all in, and I've heard you guys all talk at meetings. I know you, and then I seen you walk after the meeting. You're all in. You're all in.
Let's face it. We all come in there. You come in because you're more or less forced to go in there. When you walk in those doors, let's face it, you're down and out, right?
Yeah, you're broken.
So whether it's a spouse, whether it's the law, whether it's your family, doesn't matter. You're walking in because your hands are tied behind your back, and you've kind of just like, okay, I've got to do this. So and let's face it, we all go in there
surrender.
And we may not be at that point to surrender at that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you go in there, you're like, all right, I got to get the heat.
I got to do something.
back.
But you're not going in for a party.
No, you're going in to just like,
something happened.
I got to go in to either, I've got to do this. So whether your intentions are good or not. Again, like you said, I mean, we all went in like, okay, hey, maybe I don't have to quit drinking forever.
Right.
Maybe I just gotta
get the monkey off my back.
I just gotta cool out for a little bit.
Right.
Let the heat settle down.
Right.
And I think one thing that really, I don't want to say bothers me, but like I really pay attention to in the rooms now, and I have for a long time, is when people criticize newcomers. I'll be honest, when newcomers rant and rave for minutes on end, I'm like, oh, dude, wrap it up. Talk to your sponsor, But I also remember, dude, when you come in, you have no idea what's going on. Like you
don't know the rules.
No, you have, like Glenn said, like things aren't going well, but you're surrendering, but you have no idea. And then, I've heard people say like to newcomers, well, you gotta want it. You gotta want it. It's like, all right, man. Like, let's give them a little bit of time.
You don't even know what you want.
No,
at that point.
no.
You
It's
want
like,
the pain
come
to
on,
stop.
man.
Right.
That's it. That's it. Like for the pain. I'm glad
stop.
the pain is so fresh at that point.
Right.
And you needed something to make the painful consequences of your actions just go away. Right.
So this is really cool because we have a lot of sober curious, right? That listen to us, especially in Bangladesh. There's a lot of Bangladesh.
Huge
You're
Bangladesh.
Is that
big
real?
out there.
Is that real? Can we get
a
a
real thing?
Hey,
We
Can we get a ruling on that? Because this is like the third time I've heard Bangladesh.
Well,
and-
that's the
so what's
only
going
spot
on?
this thing pods to. So
Oh, I see. All right. So we say whatever we want.
No, we're in 50 countries, and we always joke because like Bangladesh is one of them. We're
Oh,
like,
all right. No, that's cool. That's great. I didn't know. I was wondering.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned it a couple times. I'm like, why that country are we? But no, that's great. But yeah, man, it's like
We're actually big in Ireland.
I would imagine.
Hey,
Well, you
I
got
was gonna
two
say,
Irish.
Nothing's
three.
big in
I was going to
Ireland.
say that's stereotypical,
Yeah, but behind every stereotype, Joe,
Picking Joe in the balls again.
with the Irish,
Right. But
So, yeah.
to going back to the age thing, it's like so you would think, okay,
Joe's
like,
sensitive
hey,
over the age.
well, I mean,
He's
it's like,
really upset about this.
well, it's funny.
Joe's like, I'm not
because-
that old.
because even like guys like our sponsors are quite a bit older than us. All of us, right?
Yep,
At least
yep.
ours. And again, you still have this great friendship connection, and the one thing we all have in common, and even though there's a big age difference in a lot of us, we all have the same things in common. The same shitty things happen, the same consequences, the same backstory, different places, different people, but it's all the same, and we all have that commonality,
All the
and
similarities.
that's
It
what
didn't
that's
matter,
that
yeah.
common bond that brings us all together.
There you
so,
go.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean, and it's all
Well,
the same shit, just a different bag. That's it.
Yeah, and Mike, it's funny you mentioned that again because somebody did tell me when I was attending the 7 a.m.s, I was maybe like almost a year sober, and they're like, "Hey, man, what you think you should attend some meetings with maybe people closer to your age, not instead of
Yes,
the 7 a.m.,
right.
but along
Yes.
with." And I was like, "Yeah, I could do that, and not opposed to it at that point." But I'm also thinking to myself like, maybe 10, 11 months sober. I'm like, this is working.
I found my peeps.
This is working. I'm
That's
going
right.
at the time. I was only going to Saturday and Sunday mornings because of
right.
work. But I'm like on weekends.
And
Joe,
I was going to say that's a heavy
Heavy schedule for
me.
yeah.
So, but
Joe, I was just going to say that. I'm like, I can't believe Joe is actually going
But Joe, there
to
were-
admit to that.
early on, you and I were attending 6 p.m.s as well.
yes.
It's just we had to leave early because Joe had to be home because he had a curfew. But he
another problem.
another
We got
problem,
lots
yeah.
of them.
Between the two of us, we had half a license. we had a permit.
But we had an apartment.
We had an apartment. Yeah, Joe had an apartment.
I was homeless, so I had to get an apartment.
All right,
but-
officer, let us explain our driving arrangements
Right.
now.
Right.
First of all, we're sober, but
I'm
he's got to
loaning
have
my
a
license
license.
to
I got
Ryan
to
for
have
this
a
30
license.
minutes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny, man. Hey, listen, we got people banging up for our our
man,
table.
gotta
I
wrap
know
up,
already,
Mikey,
but let's
geez.
come back and listen to.
All right, deal.
Yeah, let's come back and learn
Part
more.
2 of the summer series.
Part 2 of the summer series.
That's
All
awesome.
right, you guys come back.
Nice guys.
Sounds great. We'd
All
love
right,
to.
see you next
Thanks.
week.
Catch you
All
quick.
right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago. Beautiful city.